Hey everyone, it's Andrew the Pet Guy with my special friend Maybelline, this sweet little baby who I love. You're my sweet baby, and I love you. I am here today with a very important video. Today is the day that this discussion really gets started. Over the course of these videos, I plan to unfold this whole discussion about what it really means to keep our pets healthy, to have this holistic approach. And I thought the best place to start was with what I consider to be the cornerstone of any health routine, and that is, of course, water. Water. The most miraculous substance in the universe. The most mysterious substance in the universe. We're going to talk about this today and what it means for biological life systems. But before I do that, I want to discuss or share with you guys something I experience almost daily. I do a lot of pet care, take care of lots of animals, and almost every day I walk into someone's house, I see a bowl of water that has been left there for the pet. The bowl is almost full, the animal's not drinking it. I go and dump that water out, I refill it, pour it fresh, put it back down, and immediately the animals go and drink. So, what do they know that we don't? Why is it they want that fresh water and not the water that's been sitting stagnant? Now, there's many answers to this question, but the most obvious one is that when you pour water, you'll notice that air bubbles are created, and the water actually takes in free oxygen from the air. This is the same process you do when pouring wine that they call aeration. And when you drink water that has this oxygen content, the water, when it enters your bloodstream, helps to bring oxygen to your muscles and your brain, which is of course very good, because without oxygen we would be dead in minutes. When you allow water to sit stagnant, you may have noticed if you leave a glass sitting on a counter too long that air bubbles will form along the side of the glass, and this is actually the oxygen in the water leaving. In other words, the water has been suffocated. You could say it's no longer living. And I like to think of water as being alive. When an organism is born, it's about 90% water. By the time it dies, it's about 70% water. So this loss of water, also called dehydration, can be seen as one of the chief mechanisms that facilitates breakdown of the body, leading to aging and eventually death. And if we maintain this higher concentration of water in our bodies, then we can achieve optimal health for longer. And while the body is 70 to 90% water, the water molecule is actually much smaller than the macromolecules that make up our proteins and things. So if you look at how many molecules in the body are water compared to not water, you're at over 90%. I think it's actually more like 99%. Don't quote me on that, but I'll have to look that one up later. So water, of the utmost importance. This is what I'm trying to get across today, not just for you, but for your pet. Most animals drink tap water. which is fine, but it is important to note that tap water contains a whole plethora of impurities. I looked this up earlier just to have a few off the top of my head. First of all, city water is reclaimed, so it goes through the sewer system and it's purified, made drinkable, they say, before coming back out the taps. But what's still in there is fecal matter. There's urine and the metabolites of urine, which means people who took pharmaceuticals, which is a large segment of the population. The body metabolizes those, and you urinate them out, and they are left in the water. So you're getting basically medication, for all kinds of things. There's heavy metals in there, such as lead and arsenic. Of course, they want to kill any bacteria, so they put things like chlorine. There is the fluoride controversy. This list goes on and on. That's not the point of this video. The point is that no matter what water you're feeding or you're giving to your pets, if it's tap water, or if you're like me, where I actually make my own water from scratch, I make sure it's perfectly purified and remineralized in a process very similar to the way spring water is made, that we want to make sure it's optimal. And one of the ways to do that is to pour it fresh every day, multiple times a day even, so that we keep our animals drinking. If your animal still has a full bowl of water in the morning, that's not good enough. You need to dump that out, refill it. If your animal is on dry food, your animal is not getting water from food. It means when the animal body digests that food, it needs to pull water from other places. This creates a deep down dehydration. If you see your dog going to his water bowl and just gulping, 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 you know he's experiencing dehydration. So we need to do things to encourage the consumption of water. And the number one thing we can do for that is to pour fresh water regularly. But I'm going to go much deeper than that today. Water is the most incredible substance in the universe. It's been known for many, many years that water does not behave like other molecules that we see on Earth and in the universe. There are anomalies associated with water, and without these anomalies, life would not exist. One of these main anomalies is the fact that as water freezes and gets colder, unlike just about everything else that's known, it becomes less dense. And they actually call this the anomaly point. As water cools, it becomes more and more dense like anything else, and when it reaches this temperature, I think it's around 36 degrees, which is called the anomaly point, it actually begins to become less dense. This is why ice floats instead of freezing from the bottom up. This allows sea life to survive even in frozen conditions. Other anomalies with water are that it has an unusually high surface tension. It holds its heat extremely well. It's called the heat capacity, which allows our bodies to maintain body temperature. And one of the most well-known of these anomalies is the fact that water exists in 3 different states at the same time, which means we see water vapor, water as a gas, liquid water, and water as a solid. Sorry about that. That was actually a good place to take a little break, though. Had to check on Khaleesi, the doggy. I was just mentioning that on Earth, water is found in the 3 different states. But what the new research about water is proving is that water is so much more miraculous and incredible than ever thought. And it doesn't just exist in 3 states. It actually exists in 4. There is a 4th stage of water. It's often called structured water, or the 4th stage, or what's called EZ water, which stands for exclusion zone. And what this is a liquid crystal state. A crystal is defined as a material that at the molecular level has a perfect geometric lattice structure. And with water, in this 4th phase, it has a perfect hexagonal uniformity to its molecular structure. And this is basically why snowflakes are always in a hexagon. It's displaying this geometry. But this water in this phase is spectacular. I said that it is called EZ for exclusion zone. Well, what's it excluding? What actually it does is it creates a negative charge, which it holds on the inside, and on the outside, around these highly negative charged water, is the positive charge in the water. And water, it's important to note, is dipolar. It has both a positive and a negative charge, which makes it just like a little magnet, and also it makes it a little battery. And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But, excuse me, with this, by arranging itself with the positive charge on the outside, it actually excludes things that have a positive charge because like charges repel. What's really important to note here is that almost everything that's bad for the body has a positive charge, a strong positive charge. Heavy metals, strong positive charge. Radioactive materials, strongly positive. Viruses, you name it. Heavy metals, not sure if I said that. Pesticides, all these things are highly positively charged. Many of the impurities in the tap water, and probably all of them actually, highly positively charged. Even the waste products that our bodies produce have a high positive charge. So sweat, urine, even the carbon dioxide we exhale, all positively charged. So at all times, the body is trying to maintain this negative charge while repelling and expelling things with positive charge. And this structured water in the 4th phase actually purifies itself and shields the body from these things. And a little more on charge here. What we're really talking about with positive charge are protons, and negative charge, which are electrons. And this has a lot to do with oxidative damage and what we call antioxidants, which we all know are supposed to be very healthy for us, but how do they work? The way they work is by supplying extra electrons, which give the body this negative charge, which it always wants to keep. The oxygen molecule is very good at stealing electrons, and it will take them from other chemicals in the body, which throws the body out of homeostasis. It creates imbalance. And when we talk about antioxidants, that's a chemical that has extra electrons to give. So it gives up freely these electrons to the oxygen molecule to prevent oxidative damage. When you see bruises on a fruit, that's oxidation. When metal rusts, that's because of oxidation. It's one of the primary ways that things break down is through this process. Antioxidants, like I said, give up electrons, and things like they call negative ions in the air, which you can get from being around like places where water falls and crashes, like the beach or waterfalls. That means there's extra electrons in the air. When you breathe them, you Luna, love you, baby. When you breathe these negative ions, you're getting free antioxidants. The Earth itself is covered in free electrons that just run across the surface of the Earth. When you put bare skin or touch the Earth, you actually pull these in through your body. You get all these free antioxidants. But what do? We wear rubber-soled shoes, which do not conduct electricity and which cut us off from this source. So it's important to note that these electrons are antioxidants and they are maintaining this negative charge. I also mentioned that water in this fourth phase is like a little battery. But how is it charged? It's charged by light. In the presence of light, particularly infrared light, it actually charges itself. And when you drink water in this state that has been charged with light, and I don't mean just visible light, I mean anything in the light spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum. Come here, Luna. Alright, come on. Helps charge this. Particularly infrared, like I said. And what happens is that there's actually bioavailable light in there called biophotons, which the body can directly access for energy. So basically, your body is mostly water, and when you drink this water that is in this state, this fourth phase, you are actually getting free energy. This is very similar to what plants do in a process called photosynthesis, where they take sunlight, which contains, all parts of the spectrum, and it converts it to energy. Well, we can do that too, and our animals can do that, but only when we take in this water. When water sits stagnant, it's basically the only time it goes out of this phase. When water stagnates and goes out of this phase, the molecules fall out of this lattice structure and they form these giant clumps of molecules. And this has to do with the magnetic nature of water, and they all just clump together. That makes it harder for the body to digest water. Not only is water more dense when it is in this fourth phase, but it's actually not even H2O anymore. If you look at the way it's arranged, it becomes H3O2. So you get more water in the same amount because it's more dense, you get more oxygen, you get the exclusion of positively charged ions, and it becomes more digestible. If you look at the cells of any living thing, the body arranges it in this state, this fourth phase. And when water enters the cell, it can really only go one molecule at a time through the cell wall. And if water's stagnant, it's these big clusters, which takes the body longer to break apart in order to go into the cell than it does in the fourth phase. And once it's in there, the body arranges it into the fourth phase. The exception to this is in cancer cells, which for some reason arrange water into pentagonal shapes, 5-sided. And one thing that's interesting to note is that when you purify your water through reverse osmosis, it creates a 5-sided lattice, not the 6-sided hexagon. So for that reason, I tend to avoid any type of reverse osmosis. Instead, I always prefer vapor distillation, which is really the only way to 100% purify water. That's how nature does it, through evaporation. And when you find water in nature, it's almost always in this fourth phase. When it is in the atmosphere, forms clouds and rain and snow, it comes down in this fourth phase. When it's in springs, it comes from the earth, it comes out in this fourth phase. The only time it doesn't is in tap water, which isn't allowed to flow and move the way it should, and when it is stagnant. So, very important to look at how your water is. The other way that it forms this is through motion, particularly the vortex. When it spins, it creates this coherency of the molecular structure, which allows it to maintain this liquid crystal state and adds additional energy, these biophotons, which are available to the body. That also, of course, excludes these positively charged ions. So I think this is about where I'm going to wrap it up now. Most important thing I want you to get out of this video is that the best thing you can do for your pet is to fill the water bowl regularly with fresh water. I always like to spin it around a little, give it some motion, always make sure it's aerated. Can't stress that enough. We need our animals drinking more. Best way to do that is to pour fresh water. In a future video, I plan to show you guys how I make my water. It's actually not easy to do. I mean, not hard to do. and it's really inexpensive compared to buying bottled water. So I'm going to show you guys that in the future. I'm going to put some links in the description about how you can research this further. We're all made of water. We all need water. It's really important to know these things, and especially for our pets who eat mostly dry food and food that is highly toxic and not optimal for health, which we're going to discuss as this conversation unfolds. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. Feel free to comment. I will get back to you when I can. Water, the foundation of health. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And remember to love your pets, because they never forget to love you.